Finding solutions to help the thousands of homeless people in Toronto is even more of a challenge now during the pandemic. The system is at capacity. There have been outbreaks in some shelters, and in order to meet social distancing rules, the 7,000 shelter beds have been shifted to locations across the city, including hotel rooms and community centers like this one. Tent encampments are also growing in size and in number, which is a safety concern for the city. Advocates are worried they'll be dismantled and say that is not the solution. While the city has removed tent encampments in the past, when the pandemic hit, a moratorium was placed on clearing camps. And yet last week, this one at George Hislop Park near Charles and Yonge, where more than 30 tents were pitched, received this notice, which stated that those living there were camping in a public park without authority and that they should remove their possessions by Monday. Advocates say not only do these people have nowhere else to go, but they're safer in these tents, both from catching COVID-19 and spreading it.
We know from the Center for Disease Control that when you clear an encampment, right, it's more likely actually the virus will spread because people have to disperse. They have no option. And so if anybody has COVID, they're forced to go to other locations, forced to interact with people they wouldn't otherwise. It's just not smart on that level. And it's also just really difficult. If you're barely surviving, you're in a tent, to have some shelter from the freezing rain, frankly, what we have right now, and to have that taken away from you by the city, like, that's just awful.
What would happen to you if the city said you had to move out of there?
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't leave. I would make a stand.
Corey tells me he's been on the street for 4 or 5 years. He says police kicked him out of another location where he was camped, so he came to George Hislop. He says it's like a family.
Every single homeless person who is either here or park or down in other encampments, we all know each other, and it's a network of caring, compassionate people.
What ended up happening after the notice was issued Thursday was that the city moved 31 inhabitants into apartments. Leftover belongings and debris were removed and the site cleaned, but the other occupants have so far been left alone in their tents. Toronto's Shelter Support and Housing Administration reassures the community that this is the policy for encampments around the city, although the goal is to get as many people inside as possible.
If we're not able to offer a place inside, we will not remove somebody from their encampment.
So the moratorium stands then?
The moratorium stands that we will not clear an encampment where we have not been able to offer somebody an inside placement.
Everyone agrees proper accommodation is preferable, although Greg Cook says shelters have their own issues with shared bathrooms and close sleeping quarters in spite of efforts to physically distance. He would like to see more hotel rooms open up for the homeless, as more than 20,000 of them in the city sit empty. Marianne Bedard says it's not that easy.
Hotels are private businesses, so we have approached a number of them, and they've declined the opportunity to rent their rooms to us. Where they have shown an interest, we've absolutely pursued that.
Marianne Bedard says the reason those 31 people were able to move into apartments is because a demolition project for 2 apartment buildings has been delayed due to COVID-19. So the developer offered them up to the city for several months. There are units for about another 100 homeless people as well. Bedard wishes more owners would do the same. I'm Pam Seatle, City News.